Ever get that sinking feeling when a teenager overshares and you're the only one who seems to care? Well, I happen to be in one such situation, and I honestly don't know what to do about it. I'm genuinely driving myself crazy concerned for this particular teenager in question, while her own mother sees no problem with it. This is the reason why I found myself here, willing to open up to a bunch of strangers looking for any sort of advice. I guess I should start this off by probably saying that all of you understand the gravity of the situation and the reason why I'm so concerned about this entire thing. I'm Denise, and the teenager I just mentioned happens to be my niece Ava. She's my elder sister Amelia's daughter, and I believe the girl might land herself in big trouble due to her own innocence and pure nature. But before we get into that whole problem here, I would like to give you guys a bit of briefing about my sister and my history with Ava so that you guys understand better why I'm so concerned. So, my sister Amelia is and has always been one of the most selfish people I knew. Since childhood, she's been the one to always keep herself first, not caring about how it might affect the people around her. From ruining the whole family trip just because she would rather hang out with her besties, to not hesitating before ruining my 10th birthday just because she wanted to spotlight herself. Emilia did whatever she pleased without caring about anyone but herself. Well, my whole childhood was full of strings of incidents where Amelia would take a lot of my things just because she really needed it, and then return them either ruined or would lose them. She didn't care. Not at all. About how things were precious to me. She just took what she wanted and used it how she pleased. Well, this resulted in a lot of many heartbreaks for me because as a child, I was pretty attached to a lot of things, especially my vintage book set, which Amelia took because one of her friends needed to, quote, borrow it, just to read. But in reality, she had just gifted it to one of the nerdy guys that she wanted to, well, impress at the time. I was literally so upset about the whole thing, since the book set was one of my most prized possessions. But the worst betrayal came when I was 17 years of age, and in my senior year of high school. I'd been saving up money from my part-time job just to, well, cover up the cost of my dream trip, a senior class trip to New York City. It was something I've been looking forward to for many years, a chance to see the world outside of our small town, and I don't know, maybe experience something new before heading off to college. I'd worked very, very hard. I did. I mean, every single weekend and every summer to scrape together the amount needed for the trip, and I finally had just enough to save up. But just a few days before the trip, Amelia, who was going through a rough patch with her boyfriend she shared an apartment with, called me in tears one night. She seemed really upset and desperate and said she needed the money to leave him and get a place of her own, that she had no one else to turn to. She made it sound like she was in real danger. So I didn't hesitate. I transferred the money to her without a second thought since my sister's well-being was more important to me than any trip. But then a week later I found out she's taken that money and spent it on a vacation with her boy toy, the very one she claimed she needed to escape from. They posted pictures all over the web, smiling on a beach, partying at clubs, while I was stuck at home watching pictures and videos of my classmates having the time of their lives in New York. Later, when I confronted her about the whole thing, she just simply told me that it was not a big deal since she used the money for a trip. So by now, you can get an idea of how self-centered Amelia must be. But yet I had hoped for her, especially when she fell pregnant with the same boyfriend soon after the trip incident and came home to us crying for support since he ditched her. You know, it was honestly just me and my mom at her house since my dad passed away when we were quite young, and yet both of us made sure to support Amelia and take good care of her in every possible way. Well, there was also this small hope that maybe, just maybe, motherhood would change her and her kid would be the person she would finally keep above herself. But all that hope went to hell when a few years after Amelia gave birth to my beautiful niece, Ava, she ran away leaving Ava, who was just 9 at the time, with me and my mom. Though it was tough for us since taking care of a child is no easy task, I also like to see it as the most beautiful phase of my life. The fact that Ava had grown up watching us around her since the time of her birth only helped her get closer to us. She seemed to miss her mom a lot, yet she was happy to be with us, and we made sure that Ava did not feel the absence of Amelia in her real life much. I mean, Ava was the light of our lives, and both me and my mom were so immersed in bringing her up in the best way that we did not even notice the years passing. Thus, you can understand why I'm so attached to Ava. Because for me, she's more than just my niece, as I treated her as my own child. All this time we were busy raising Ava. Amelia was busy with her stupid adventures, going to risky places, dating all sorts of weirdos, and partying like there's no tomorrow. We would get these phone calls from her, a mere formality, asking about her daughter and how big she had grown, and we were okay with her absence until, a few years later, she came back claiming to date a rich guy named Robert, who had no problem with her already having a kid. She told me how she was now engaged to said Robert, and they were planning to get married, and Ava could move in with them after the marriage. Well, I was a bit weirded out by the huge age gap between Amelia and Robert, and by the looks of it, she was only marrying this guy for the money. But who was I to say something, since Amelia has never listened to me or my advice till date. Though both me and my mom were reluctant to let Ava live with Amelia, since we were not sure of the kind of mother she would be. We couldn't do much since Ava was Amelia's daughter and she had all the rights to her. Also, the fact that Amelia convinced us about how Robert and her would be able to give Ava a much better life than I could afford with my average salary, we couldn't really help but let Ava go with her mom. Even Ava was excited to have her mother around after so long. So 7 months ago, Amelia and Robert got married, and Ava moved in with them. They didn't live very far away, and occasionally we get to see Ava as she visits sometimes, but always with her mother. It was one such recent visit from Ava and Amelia that has led me here, since the whole visit ended with me being pretty worried about the way Ava was growing up to be. So 2 days ago, Ava and Amelia came to our house to see me and my mom. We were both pretty excited and had prepared all of Ava's favorite delicacies, and even got a few gifts from her. It was all a good time, and even Amelia was acting better than usual, making me wonder if Ava actually was having a good influence on her. But the problem arose when just me and Ava were sitting in my room while she was opening the books I got her. She was very happy and chatting about how even one of her online friends had suggested her the same book. Well, I was a bit confused here. I mean, since when did Ava have online friends? Come on. That's when I asked her, and what she showed and told me got me a bit worried. So apparently Ava had been making some online friends for a few months now, but that was not my real concern. My concern rose when I realized Ava's been spending a lot of time online, and she's a little too quick to trust people that she meets there. I've seen her share personal details and pictures with complete strangers, and it's like waving a red flag in front of a bull. And she finds nothing wrong in doing so. I mean, I tried to tell her that sharing a personal detail online with people she barely knew could land her in serious trouble. But she doesn't believe me. I don't blame her. She's just a 15-year-old who's too naive and thinks that the world is full of kind people looking to befriend her while she's unaware of all the fraud and manipulation of the world. But this is none of Ava's fault. It's actually Amelia who should have been paying attention to what her daughter is up to online. So naturally, I brought the whole thing to Amelia's attention, thinking she would be as worried for her daughter as I am. But I guess I was the one mistaken, thinking my selfish sister would care about her daughter, because all she seems to care about is the amount of money she has and the life of luxury she's living. Because when I told Amelia about Ava's activity online, she just brushes it off, saying it's nothing, and Ava was just enjoying the freedom that came with her age since she had all the means in the world. She thinks it's all just part of being a teenager, and that Ava's just being social, and I'm the one who's being paranoid. She simply told me that I was overreacting, and I should just let Ava live her life as she pleases. I was shocked by her casual attitude towards Ava's life, but I think I should have guessed it, because if she had been a responsible mother, none of this would be happening, since she would have taught Ava what was good for her and what was not. I've tried talking to Ava about the whole danger of what she's doing, but she doesn't get it. Of course, when her mother is the one condoning all this behavior without a hesitation, she's bound to think that there's nothing wrong and risky with what she's doing. And this has led me to be very worried about Ava. I feel like it's just a matter of time before all of this oversharing lands Ava in some deep, deep trouble, and I don't want that. I mean, Ava's innocence and naivety make her an easy target, and I'm terrified that she's going to find out the hard way that not everyone in this world has good intentions. I care too much about her for her to get hurt by some online weirdo, but I don't know what to do in this situation. I mean, Ava's own mother isn't ready to step up and warn her daughter about this stuff, so come on, what can I do? But I know one thing is for sure. I just can't sit here doing nothing, waiting for Ava to get hurt and learn her lesson. I just can't allow that. I'll be back. Update number 1. Hey guys, it's me. So I'm back for an update. This is the first time updating, and yes, I know, it's been more than a month since my initial post, and a lot of you have shared the same concern I had for Ava, and we were curious to know if I was able to do something about it or not. Sorry to keep you waiting, guys, but I've been busy with something. Well, I did something that I thought might be helpful to Ava, but a lot of you might find it wrong. I agree that my actions might not be 100% correct, but I feel it had to be done. Also, I'm not proud of whatever I did, so before any of you start bashing me for it, kindly, I understand where I'm coming from, and please go easy on me. Anyways, let me just go ahead and pick up from where I left off, so that you guys can understand better the situation that led me to this desperate attempt. As I mentioned in my initial post, Ava's online indulgence was worrying me a lot, and I tried to talk to both Ava and Amelia about it, but none of that worked. So I decided to go one step further and take things into my own hands. A lot of you guys suggested documentaries and workshops about online safety, so that's what I opted for. I researched a lot and came up with a few videos that might help Ava, but they were all of no use. Since Ava just continued talking to strangers online when I tried to warn her again, she told me that she knew what she was doing. I don't know if this is teenage rebellion or what, but no matter how hard I tried, Ava did not listen. So, at last, I had no other option or ways to show Ava the harsh reality of the internet. I resorted to a pretty desperate method a lot of you won't approve of. I mean, come on. I obviously had Ava's best intentions in mind when I came up with the idea. I thought that it was better that Ava learned her lesson about the dark truth of the internet through me rather than some fishy stranger, even. And though it seemed like a great idea at the start, it seems to be getting completely out of control now, if I can tell you the honest truth. So here's what happened. After trying everything I could do to show Ava how dangerous it was to share her personal details with strangers, I decided to give her a practical reality check. I made up a profile of a 16-year-old guy named Jake, and I made sure his profile showed how he shared a lot of common interest with Ava, including her love for books and the arts, and then I sent Ava a friend request. Just like her naive, trusting self, Ava saw Jake's profile as a potential friend and accepted the request, and we got to talking. Our conversation started off harmless enough, talking about books and things that Ava enjoyed. Even in this situation, Ava could not help but overshare as she told me. Jake, about her personal life, sent me a bunch of her pictures from the day and even told me how she felt neglected at home. I felt bad for Ava, and thought that maybe the reason why Ava turned to online people might be because of the lack of attention she gets at home. It again led me to blame Amelia for the situation we're in, but this update is not about that. So over the whole month, I talked to Ava a lot through Jake's profile. I could see that she was getting emotionally attached to Jake as slowly she starts to feel like Jake and her were dating. I knew things were getting out of hand, and I had to stop and tell the whole truth to Ava and even Amelia. But the clear indication came yesterday when something really bad happened, shocking even. So as I mentioned before, me and Ava had gotten pretty close, so much so that Ava thought she was dating Jake. So when she asked Jake to take their bond to the next level in terms of intimacy, I couldn't believe my eyes. I mean, I was shocked, so shocked, because this entire thing was so dang dangerous. Ava was so naive that she was willing to meet and do God knows what with the guy that she's been talking to for a month. And anyways, this was the point where I knew I had to show Amelia how risky everything she was ignoring was. So well, that's the plan for now. I'm going to visit Amelia tomorrow to tell her about the whole thing so that she can actually help me make Ava understand how this is dangerous. I know what I did would hurt Ava, but I do hope that once this is all out in the open, she'll understand I was trying to tell her right from wrong. And we'll be more careful about these things, so guys, wish me luck for the big confrontation. Update number 2. Hey guys, it's Denise again after 2 days since the update. Things have seriously changed since the last post, as I've been faced with a horrifying truth. I don't honestly know what to do about it, and for a lot of you pondering about it, if I confronted Ava and my sister and how it went, well, I couldn't do it. Not after the crazy truth that I just found out. I know it's confusing, but you'd understand once I tell you the entire thing, so after my last update, I'd stopped replying to Ava since I would just be dragging things on while I was planning to come clean about the entire issue. But Ava was getting restless and texting me nonstop, asking if she had done anything wrong or what. I just couldn't leave her hanging. I replied, I, as Jake, told Ava how we could not actually take our relationship to the level she wanted since I was scared that Ava would get into trouble if her parents ever discovered what she had done. What Ava replied to this became the biggest shock of my life. Ava told me that I should not be worrying about such things since her stepfather doesn't care about her life much, and her mother herself has a lover, so she wouldn't mind. Ava having one? I was shocked out of my wits. Like, had Ava just exposed that Amelia was having an affair? But I knew I just couldn't believe all this based on words of a 15-year-old girl, as Ava might have misunderstood the situation or something. But I also could not drop it since this was a big deal. So I acted on instinct. I acted as if Jake did not believe the thing that Ava said about her mom. So Ava just tells me to wait a few days or two and she would prove it. I could see how Ava was willing to do anything for Jake. I really felt bad for Ava and feared her reaction when she would come to know that Jake wasn't real. But I knew that now something as serious as Amelia cheating on Robert? Well, that's at stake. I couldn't just let it go. So I waited as Ava asked me to, and to my surprise, Ava was true to her word as she sent me a lot of pictures. Pictures of Amelia with another guy and also a bunch of screenshots. Text message after text message exchanged between them. It was enough to show me how Amelia actually had been cheating on Robert. You know, this revelation just made the entire thing a lot more complicated, if I have to say. So, meanwhile, Ava, for whom it was pretty hard to get out of the house alone, came up with an absolute crazy idea of how Jake and her could meet up and take things further without Amelia or Robert suspecting them at all. Ava told me that I should come over for a lunch at her house, as she would introduce me as her friends and her parents. This way, they would be comfortable with them coming to the house for study sessions or some other excuse, and Ava would not even have to leave the house for them to meet and do things right underneath their parents' noses without anyone being suspicious. I was shocked that Ava came up with all this, but I guess all of us go through this phase of teenage rebellion, which might just lead to a lot of mistakes and trouble for us. I was honestly pretty confused and taken aback by the whole thing. This entire thing had gone on for far too long and was getting too out of control. I still don't know what to do about Amelia's affairs, but I do know that I can't take this thing any further, because the more I delay, the more hurt Ava would be. I've decided to show up at this lunch on Saturday that Ava invited me to and be done with the whole truth once and for all. But the only thing I can't seem to make a decision about is Amelia and her lover. So regarding that, I would appreciate some advice on what I can do now, so guys, please explain it to me. Let me know. Update number 3. Hey guys, it's Denise again after a few days, and I can't even begin to explain how things have escalated in such a short span of time. Things have gone crazier than I thought, and I'm here to bring you up to speed of this all. But for those of you who are criticizing my decision and telling me to come clean ASAP, let me cut it short for you. The burden of the whole truth is finally out of my chest, and I'm honest, things went worse than I thought that they could have. So let me just get straight into what actually happened at the lunch and how everything went horribly wrong. As we had discussed in the text, Ava had told her parents that her friend Jake was coming over for lunch. I actually felt bad going there, knowing well enough that Ava would be expecting a 16-year-old boy, and obviously her reaction to everything was expected. So, as soon as I showed up at my sister's place, everyone's faces turned to that of confusion. So without wasting a minute, I started by telling them how there was no Jake. It was me Ava had been talking to for the past month. I told everyone how I did it to prove to Ava that not everyone she met online was good as she thought that people could be, and they could easily fool her and use her to their advantage if she was not careful. No sooner did the words leave my mouth that Ava ran to her room crying. I felt really bad for her, for having hurt my own niece, but I knew that she had to see the real side of things soon. and I had to take the tough approach since she was not ready to see things the easy way. Next, I started to talk to Amelia about how she should take care of what Ava was doing online. And as a mother, it was her responsibility to make sure that Ava was not involved in anything that may harm her. Even Robert agreed with me on this one, but both of us were cut short as Amelia starts shouting at me about how I dare catfish her daughter. I was shocked. This woman, who should have been appreciating me for how I was able to show a real-life lesson to Ava and save her from getting the same thing done to her in reality, was shouting at me? I mean, I know my method was not ideal, but I had no other option. Especially because she let her daughter do it, making her feel like there was nothing wrong. Obviously, someone had to do something, you know. Well, Amelia's insults did not stop there. She starts to make personal comments about how a loser, who's still single at 32, shouldn't get herself involved in teaching her daughter what is wrong and right. I could not believe my own sister would stoop so low just to insult me. The humiliation continued at its peak for a few more minutes before Robert had to tell Amelia to shut it. As she had said enough, there was nothing left for me to do. I thought of all the people, at least Amelia would understand my concern and why I did what I did, since it was literally her daughter in question. But she just used the entire thing against me. Now, I'm honestly filled with so much anger and also worry, but the worst part has nothing to do with Amelia. I'm worried for Ava, as she's still mad at me and is not talking to me. But I know soon that she'll come around. At least for now, she knows how to trust everyone she meets online, and her being safe is enough for me. But right now, I'm more focused on Amelia. I'm honestly so angry at her. Though I was not sure what to do with her affair thingy earlier, now I know exactly what to do. I hired a PI to look into this entire thing, and let's see how that turns out. Update number 4. Hey guys. Now, without wasting any further time, let me get straight into what happened. It's been a few months. So in the last update, I told you guys how I had hired a PI to dig into the dirt regarding my sister's affair and collect more proof and evidence. Well, it took the PI a few weeks, but he presented me with something shocking. So, it turns out that my sister wasn't just having an affair with one guy, or it wasn't just a one-time thing. She had been cheating on Robert for a long time. The most shocking part, one of Amelia's lovers was Robert's close friend. I was shocked by the fact that she could do this to Robbie, but the entire thing just made me suspicious that Amelia had married Robert for money, and it's true. So with all the truth now in my hand, I decided to expose Amelia. I went straight to Robert's and Amelia's house, and Amelia, arrogant as ever, started shouting at me, asking me whether I was here to play her daughter again. I stayed silent and kept all the evidence in front of Robert. As soon as Amelia realized what happened, her face turned pale. She could not process the fact that she had been caught. Robert was devastated. He just could not believe how Amelia could betray him like this. I'm glad Ava was at school at the time, because I wouldn't have wanted her to witness all that followed. Robert, the guy who mostly remained calm, lost her cool on Amelia, shouting at her about why she did all this, while all Amelia could do was cry. And soon, just as I stood there, Robert grabbed Amelia by the arm and threw her out of the house. Long story short, Amelia was soon on her own as Robert filed for a divorce. And without Robbie's money to rely on, she ended up in a sketchy trailer apartment, along with Ava trying to make ends meet. It was a harsh reality check. But honestly, she brought it on herself, though I wanted to help Ava. Amelia did not allow me to see her. Unfortunately, things took a pretty dark turn. I found out through mutuals that CPS had been called to check up on Ava. She was being neglected, as Amelia was too caught up in her own misery to care for her daughter properly. It broke my little heart to hear my little Ava has been through so much already was suffering even more. Well, I knew I had to step in. I reached out to CPS and offered to take Ava in. It wasn't as easy as she was still angry with me for every single thing that happened, and I didn't blame her. But I wasn't going to let her face the consequences of her mother's mistakes. Slowly, over time, she began to see that I was trying to help her and not hurt her.